Hey, welcome back. This is part four and the final part of my series on the birth, the life, and the death of my Christianity. And in this final part, I want to talk mainly about three things. Um, the first will be materialism. All right, it's a philosophy that now guides me. I also want to talk a little bit about morality in a post-Christian sense, and also feel like uh, it's appropriate to end the end with mortality. And I want to talk a little bit about mortality and my post-Christian view and feelings on that. Since I left Christianity, I have uh, developed a new worldview, and it's guided by a form of materialist philosophy that's known as dialectical materialism. Now, I'm going to refer to it as diamat from here on out, just to shorten it up, because I'm lazy and I don't want to use all the big words. But it emerged out of the philosophical tradition of the German philosopher George Wilhelm Friedrich Hegel. And this Hegel's philosophy was studied, and it was expanded and revised by two of his students, two gentlemen by the name of Frederick Engels and Karl Marx. Those names might or might not be familiar with you. Um, how did I come across this? Actually, when you know, I don't, I really couldn't tell you why I adapted this, other than that when I started reading about philosophies that were evidence based, natural based, materialist, I came across this, and the more that I read about it, it's like this this kind of slides right into my consciousness, right into how I see the world. And time doesn't permit me in this video to give you an exhaustive review. Frankly, I don't think you'd want that anyway. But a review and explanation of this philosophy. So I'm just going to touch on some of the basic principles of what dialectical materialism philosophy is. Now, suffice it to say that diamat is based on that which is observable. It's evidence based. It's in opposition to what to an idealism, or better stated, I guess, it's in opposition to what is merely that of an idea or an abstract concept. Dialectical materialism doesn't deal with abstract concepts at all. I understand what they are, and a diamat will plug that into to their analysis, whether they're looking at history or sociology or politics, whatever the case may be, economics. Um, I understand what an abstract concept is, but abstract concepts usually don't get you anywhere. Dialectical materialism observes that everything is connected. Everything is connected. There's all things have to be considered and studied as interconnected. You can't look at one part of something and arrive at a solid conclusion about what that something is, how it functions, how it works, without understanding everything else that it's connected to and everything else around it. And all things, another part of this is that all things are in a constant state of continuous motion and change. In dialectical materialism, there are no such things as eternals. There are no things that are immutable, that is unchanging. Everything is changing. Nothing is always in a state of rest. Do they move slower? Sure. Yeah, they move slower, but everything is changing all the time. Even if if nothing else, then certainly on a molecular level. Everything is changing. Nothing is today the way it was, say, 50 years ago. Okay? It's simply not. Everything changes all the time. So there's nothing eternal, there's nothing set. So dialectical materialism allows me to explore, intellectually explore, understanding that that everything is changing. What we know to be true today may well not be true in 100 years. Okay, that kind of thing. So it's perfect. It's a perfect sort of philosophy for a skeptic. Things are always rising and they're falling away. They're ebbing and they're flowing. Things are developing. Things are disintegrating. All of these changes go on at the same time. Diamat considers the struggles of opposites. How do opposite things work work in unity? How do they work against each other? You can apply this if you're looking at studies for social studies, sociology, economics, politics, name it. You can see where there are always struggles of opposites, even in the realms of religion and dogma and those sorts of things. So that helps you explain why, for instance, certain Christian denominations believe one thing, or how their theology may evolve over time. Even theology never stays the same. Okay, it is subject to those changes. Contradictions are inherent in everything. All right, there are no opposites there are opposites in what appears to be unity. The seeds of destruction and birth are in everything, even within your own body. We're alive today, but there are already age is working against us. There are certain cells that are breaking down. I've even heard said that in many people, most people, even the cancer cells that will one day kill them are already in the body. Right now, the body's holding it in check, but if an immune system breaks down, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, the conditions are right, then that which is already in a person will be what kills them. So no matter how hard we try to keep things the same, they change. Everything changes. Societies, religion, culture, history, none of it remains the same. So in order to, or when someone opposes these changes, that leads to regression. It leads to destruction. It leads to ruin. That's why if we can, even on a political level, if there are a group of people who say, well, we need to take the country back to the way it was in the good old days. Well, you can't do it. And if you try, you're going to actually wreck the culture. You're going to wreck society in trying to do that. You're going to cause all kinds of problems, and it will eventually be more destructive than had you just left it alone and done your best to work within the changes. So that's just a very broad overview of my post-Christian worldview. It's the philosophy of dialectical materialism, and there's a ton of resources on that. I'm not going to list them here, but if you want to look it up, just look up dialectical materialism, and I'm sure that you'll find a lot of material on that. It's all out there. Now, for the second part of this video, I also want to touch a little bit on my post-Christian views on morality. Now, having been in the church, I understand that for most people, there are certain moral standards and moral laws that one should not cross. Presumably, you shouldn't cross those. That's all well and good. But in the real world, morality is fluid to the preponderant and the accepted norms within someone's culture. Generally speaking, throughout history. It's been society and cultures that have formulated the morality for that society, for that culture. Completely a human structure, right? There's nothing divine, nothing outside of humanity about it. Morals have come out of pragmatism, right? But that, again, that can change from one era to the next. That can change from one society to the other. An honest study of cultural morals throughout history will just confirm this. Right? You don't have to go too far back in history or too far outside of wherever it is that you live to look at different cultures and how they have certain their moral codes are different than perhaps your own. Right? So all morality is fluid. It's fluid. Nevertheless, I hold that there are common morals to all people based on the understanding that, first of all, life is short and it's precious, and that others should enjoy the joys and the happiness of life that I do. I do not want to deny people of their joy or of their happiness or of their very short life. I don't want to deny anyone that. And I don't want to cause anybody else sorrow if I can help it. And that is my guiding principle. It's a very, very human principle about morals. Morals from my morals emerge out of empathy. They emerge out of compassion and the well-being that I desire not only for myself, of course, but for others. Human goodness, I'll put that in quotes because, again, that's one of those abstract concepts, but human goodness does not depend on someone being godly or religious. You don't need a religion, you don't need a God to be a decent, good human being. In fact, I would submit that if someone needs a morality that's outside of themselves, such as a God or coming from a religion, in order to be a good person, that they are someone who at some level suffers from some sort of sociopathy, right? That there's something deficient in their own moral wiring, that they have to cling out of this to make sure if I gotta grip this so that I'm a good person. And I don't subscribe to that. I think that, I just think that most people, unless they're sociopaths, unless they're somehow broken mentally, all share generally the same view of humanity that others do, and that people should have the freedom and the right and the space and the grace to be happy, to enjoy life, to live life as long as they can in a healthy way, where their needs are met, where they can self-actualize and become as fully human as they possibly can. Inherent human love, compassion, empathy, grace, generosity is sufficient. Why attribute uniquely human moral characteristics to some God? Why give the God idea the credit for the goodness in humanity instead of humanity just accepting that goodness for themselves and applauding that goodness for themselves and celebrating that goodness, that human goodness in and of and for themselves? Why give a God idea the credit for the things that are good in all things? It doesn't make sense to me, right? Doesn't make sense. There's no really reward in that anyway. And for the final part of this, where I'm going to end this, is I want to talk a little bit about my post-Christian views on mortality, all right? The span of human life and the death. Because I have rejected the claims of the gospel, that I understand that there's absolutely no evidence for an afterlife, I don't accept the premise of an afterlife. All that I get and all that you get are these few years that we get to experience this life. That's it. There was nothing before us let me rephrase it. We weren't alive at any time before we were here, and we won't be alive anytime after we're gone. We get one life. We get one shot. However many of these few years that we have, this is all we got. And that is what makes life so precious and so valuable. You just get one. There's only one. And as such, I believe that it should be lived as intensely, as joyfully, with as much pleasure, with as much laughter and passion, whatever, as possible. I'm not at all concerned about whether or not I'm going to be conscious after I die, because I know that I won't be. I will experience absolutely no consciousness in any form. That once this body dies, all of the chemical processes that bring about consciousness and awareness and everything else that's unique to humanity is going to stop. There's nothing beyond that. And I'm going to return to a state, that sounds weird, but let me put it this way. I don't remember anything at all about a time before I was born. And I'm not going to remember anything after I die. So my life is a conscious, focused, passionate, full, abundant life right now, right here, for as long as I've got. Do I fear death? No, I don't fear death. I've worked through that. That was part of the therapy. I was broken for a while, realizing that I wasn't ever going to see anybody else that I loved after I die. They're gone. They're gone. They've had their time. They're gone. It's over. It's final. It's that finality that I had to work through. That was pretty tough for a while. But I'm not scared of death. The process of dying, I don't want it to be uncomfortable. Who does? But I'm not scared of the death of dying. I'm not scared of hell. I look forward to no reward in a heaven. I'm not bothered by that at all. And this is the same for all of us. So feel and taste and see and hear and read and explore. Dare risk to the fullest. Take risks. Indulge your lusts. Indulge your curiosity. Wander. Face what you fear. You are a mortal animal. A mortal human. And I'm not saying that you should be reckless or that you should be stupid, but I would encourage you to taste everything that this one unique light has to offer. Do your best to do things that you will not regret. Do your best to do the things that will not hurt other people. Do your best to avoid negative consequences for your actions. I think that's wholesome. But by the same token, don't deny yourself anything that you're curious about. Being fully and naturally human is enough. That's enough. There's no need for anything else outside of us. And being fully and naturally human is all that we can ever really experience. So I hope that you will do that in your life to the fullest measure possible. That's it for me. My catharsis is over. I've told you my story. This hasn't been easy, but there it is. And frankly, it's easier than writing a book about it. Anyway, I want to thank you for watching. Thank you for liking. Thank you for clicking all the things that you should click so the algorithms will pick it up. You're welcome to share this series. You're welcome to write comments. I'll do my best to look at them and write back. It's I guess that's all for me for right now. So anyway, thanks again, and you live life to your fullest.